Welcome back. I'm joined here by Lee Dearman Smith and Trevor Quickshot Henry to break down our first match where Fnatic got the best of the Copenhagen Wolves. And guys, with the new patch coming in, if we look at picks and bans, the most noteworthy must have been the Ashe.
Yeah, first Ashe all year for Europe, so trying to pull out a new champion. I had hoped to see an Essence Reaver if the game had gone that long. I do think it can work on Ashe, but unfortunately, the rest of the comp just didn't really back up the late game scaling. You had Ashe and Kayle, that worked very well late game. Lee Sin and Renekton worked very well early game, but it just didn't really come together for the Copenhagen Wolves, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the late game, of course, you look at it, like you said, they had the Kayle in there, Ashe. Everybody needs a long time. They had Lee Sin, which could have sped things up maybe for them, but the fact is they went into fights too early, as Deficio mentioned during the cast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe that comes from almost winning versus Alliance last week and then having that confidence, and they try to make it all happen early.
Yeah, they really did go out of their way. I actually really like their lane swap dragon bait. Very early on, they picked up a first blood onto Yellowstar thanks to moving around the map quite efficiently and almost reading Fnatic very well. But the mistake they made is they picked fights at the inopportune times. The first replay that we've got, which we can actually pull up onto your screens right now, is that game-changing dragon fight. The Copenhagen Wolves roll this clip out. They start the dragon very early on. They're grouped quite tightly. But what I like about Fnatic is they're confident about the team fight. And look at Peke and Soaz on the top half of this map. They're zoning everyone away. As Fnatic are chasing the members of the Wolves through the pit, Soaz is right there to catch them off, to zone them out. And just a very aggressive flash over the wall from Cyanide to help pick up kills. Every single time the Wolves made a play for any objective or members of Fnatic, it got counted and read very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then someone who was at the better end of those trades was Reckless in this one, someone we did talk about a lot. And as what you've seen here, the way he played his Lucian, he said it just makes me be more aggressive. What do you make of his play?
Yeah, it was good to talk about because, or good to hear him saying it, because we've been saying it for a good few weeks now. I know, harping on about how he's been a passive player, and the fact that he knew it himself, he's been mentioned it, and he's obviously been comments about it, and he's reacted so well to it. Like you said, trying to find his trust point, how deep he can go, because last thing he wants to do is switch from completely passive to full-on aggressive and then start feeding.
Yeah, but of course, you're only as good as your support, and I gotta say, Yellowstar, even though he gave up first blood, very good performance here by him.
Number one, not cool, because he's on your fantasy team. Number two, Yellowstar hit every single death sentence he wanted to.
Yeah.
What I was very interested to see in this game was how both Yellowstar and Unlimited were working towards their itemization choices. And Yellowstar in particular, because of the changes to Mikhail's Crucible on 4.10, he actually picked up a very early Ruby Sightstone. He rushed Talisman of Ascension, which we don't normally see on Thresh. Then he went Ruby Sightstone, had the makings of maybe a Randuin's and a Sunfire Cape with a Giant Spell and a Chain Vest. So he was going super beefy, super tanky. And it wasn't something I was anticipating because of just the changes to Crucible.
And you could also look at towards the jungle of course. Cyanide went with the Frozen Heart instead of the Randuin's Omen. So we're seeing changes across the board. Obviously 4.10, a lot of teams got a lot of time to sort of settle into 4.10. There's a heck of a lot of changes in 4.10 that they're going to pick up on the first week. It's already showing very good signs.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe then as final, because you say there are so many changes. Trevor, what is one in this game that you found particularly noteworthy?
So I do think the teleport play was quite interesting between the top laners. We did see the teleports not necessarily impacting team fights as much as we have in the past because of the higher cooldowns during the laning phases. And I do believe that Soaz was working his way towards the Ardent Sensor, which is the new mana-based item, which is, in theory meant to be towards supports. But I'm personally going to be watching the top 80 carry and supports for all of today to see these new items, how they're picking up, and more importantly, in what order. What is the new pro level must absolutely have in each of those roles?
We can write it down and we go to solo queue and win. All right, now let's head back to Joe and Deficio at the desk for our next game.